Hi, folks. Welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. How safe is your money, your wealth? How safe are the banks? I would suspect that most of my listeners would say not very safe. And then that's actually a very, very true statement. But most everybody still uses them. And some of you have your investments, have your retirements, savings put back in those banks. And are your plans including a possibility of all that being taken away? And we certainly should be. That should absolutely be part of the plan. I hear from people all the time, and they'll say something like, yeah, we're planning on retiring next year, and then we're going to go full bore into preparing. Or 6 months from now, or a year from now, or 2 years from now, we're hoping to be able to purchase a piece of property and, start becoming, self-sufficient and stuff. What happens if that's your plan and 6 months down the road, all the money that you have in the bank, your savings account, your 401ks, your retirements, all that, it's all wiped away? Do you have a plan for that? Well, there's a strong possibility that kind of stuff could happen. Now, I want to talk about that today because there's been some leaked videos that's come out that is quite shocking to a lot of people. Maybe not all of us, but a lot of people. This is from the FDIC Board of Governors. Some of you may have seen this, maybe you haven't, but want to get into this. The FDIC, as many of you know, it's that insurance that's over your bank account. You can have up to like $250,000 that's protected, right? Protected. And it gives people this sense of, false sense of security that, well, if we go through another Great Depression and stock market crash like we had back in 1929, that'd be bad. But at least my money is in the bank and it's secure, unlike it was back then. We don't have to worry about them taking our money. I'll have at least, $250,000 that's protected by the FDIC insurance. Folks, it's an absolute lie is what it is. And we have to be thinking about this and preparing because I think that there's becoming a growing possibility that we could sometime in the near future start to see banking collapse, see banks go down. And there's been a lot of people talking about this for several months now. And there's just more and more compounding evidence to indicate that is the case. Before I get going any further, I do want to mention if you are still in the market for prepping up and stocking up on food, one of those options is My Patriot Supply. There's a link down in the description below. They provide excellent quality, good tasting, and one of the best price per calorie product when it comes to the freeze-dried, long-term shelf life emergency food. So if you're interested, click on that link below down in the description. It helps the channel and our little local community out. So, this FDIC, a lot of people think that their money is secure. Did you know that currently there's approximately $9 trillion US dollars in banks that is insured? So if you took all the currency, all the money in the United States banks that is protected, again, by FDIC insurance, we're talking $9 trillion. The FDIC has $125 billion in assets to back that up. Yeah, that's 1.3%. 1.3% of all the accounts in the United States banks that's protected by FDIC insurance, only 1.3% is actually insured. Meaning that if 1.5% or 2% of banks fail, the FDIC is bust. It goes bust. It's no more. And so all of that money that you are depending on to live off of and then to buy your stuff and to retire on and to give to your children and all that, it's not really there, folks. Now, this is the part that is not actually new news. We've known this for a while, that the FDIC is not really capable of protecting anything. They can't really insure anything. It's an insurance in name only. It'd be like, buying your health insurance from some guy sitting on the street corner, playing music out of a, whatever, and he's claiming that he can insure your medical care, even though for a fact this guy has no money, no resources, no assets, and it means nothing. That's exactly what FDIC insurance is. But this isn't the scary part, folks. We haven't gotten there yet. So, about 2 months ago, the Board of Governors for the FDIC met at the end of the year, and they just did their talking. It's about a 3-hour long video. You can go on YouTube and you can watch it. And I won't bore you with the whole thing, but I do want to point out a couple of little clips within that meeting, because this is where we need to listen. Let me just set this up. There's 2 different clips here, and one of them, one of these guys, he's talking about actual bail-ins. Now, if you don't know what a bank bail-in, you've heard of bailouts, right? Well, a bail-in is instead of the government bailing out the banks, which they've done already in the past, a bail-in is where the banks say, well, we'll just take all this money that's in the accounts, grandma's money and all this money that's just set in the accounts. We'll just take that money. And I know many of you would say, well, that's illegal. They can't do that. Actually, they can. And that's exactly what a bail-in is. And this has been talked about more and more over the last few months. You see, back in March of 2020, at the height of this lockdown scare tactic health crisis, not a lot of people know that the banks almost collapsed then. It came pretty close to complete failure then. And since then, there's been a lot of talk about bail-ins, of how to prevent this from happening, because certainly the FDIC can't stop it. And the U.S. government, well, they can just, I guess, make up a bunch of numbers and print it, but they don't really have the money either. And so what's the solution to keep these banks solvent, keep them from going under, and all these, glorious billionaires from losing their money? Well, they just take your money. That's what they do. They take your money and they come up with some crisis or some reason that they have to do it, and they just take your money, and you no longer have access to it. I mean, it'll be there on numbers. You could look at your account and see that the money's there, but they don't give you access to it. They say that they're using it for something. They need to use your money. They're borrowing money from you. And of course, you'll probably never get it back. And so they're talking about bail-ins in this video. And they're talking about how it's a very real thing, that it could absolutely happen. In fact, one guy alludes to the fact that it absolutely will happen. And not only that, but they are talking about keeping it from you. They talk about how it's just not necessary that the public knows this. They need to do studies on what would happen if the people found out about this. One guy actually says that, in a kind of laughing, chuckling way, that the American people have more faith in the banking system than the people in that room at the FDIC, and that it should stay that way. That they need to keep up this facade so that people believe that the banking system is solid. This is some scary stuff here, folks. And the thing is that they're not talking about it in a sense that this may someday, way off in the future, could happen. No, they're talking about it happening now or soon. And with all this talk of digital dollars and the petrodollar no longer being the U.S. dollar and all this kind of stuff happening, and this growing BRICS currency, gold-backed currency, the very real possibility that the economy here in the United States and our whole financial system of, the U.S. dollar and banks could collapse is a very real possibility, and you need to be preparing for that. I want to go ahead and play these clips here and go ahead and let you listen. And like I said, if you want to go listen to the full 3-hour meeting, you can, but listen to this right here.
I mean, it's a little bit conflicted, right? I mean, it's important that people understand they can be bailed in, but you don't want a huge run on the institution. But they're going to be. That's And it could be an early warning signal to the FDIC and the primary regulators when these things happen. And there may be some other prices, this is similar to what Jay was saying, in the market that you can tell whether people understand how who's going to be protected, who isn't going to be protected.
Should be accessible when people need to know, but I don't think you have much hope of reaching a public that doesn't have a professional need to know.
I completely agree with that. I almost think you'd scare the public if you put this out. Like, why are they telling me this? Should I be concerned about my bank? Like, my insurance company doesn't tell me what they're doing with my assets. They just assume they're going to pay my claim. Right? I think you've got to think of the unintended consequences of taking a public that has more full faith and confidence in the banking system than maybe people in this room do. That we want them to have full faith and confidence in the banking system. They know the FDIC insurance is there. They know it works. They put their money in. They're going to get their money out. So there's a select crowd of people that are in the institutional side. And if they want to understand this, they're going to find a way to understand it.
Well, that should wake you up this morning. Now, a lot of people are going to be asking, what do you do? What should I do? What should I do? Well, I'm no expert and I am no advisor, so I'm not going to do that. But I will tell you that me personally, well, we don't have a whole lot of money to begin with, but we do our best not to keep much in the bank. We just don't. Our wealth is invested in our home and our land and our preps. And we like it that way. And do we have nice things and live a luxurious lifestyle? No, of course not. We live in a tiny little house and we drive a 22-year-old rusted up pickup truck. That's just how it is. But we have the freedom. And so if I were to give advice to anyone, I would say, which is more important? Having that wealth in the bank that may not be there, or having a more self-sufficient lifestyle, a free lifestyle, and investing in that. And so that's one thing you should look at. There's other things. There's gold-backed banks, the only one that exists, like I have mentioned on here before, the UPMA. But the reality is that this is something that we should definitely be planning for. And I think that there's probably a good possibility we could see that this year. Some form of bail-in, collapse, or just, some emergency that locks things down. Just a week or so ago, there was a little digital glitch hiccup, is what they tell us, with Bank of America, that a lot of accounts were basically zeroed out that day or told that there was no money in them. Now, of course, they have since fixed it. They said there was a little glitch in the system, but it makes you wonder, is it just some kind of beta test? There's just more and more being talked about when it comes to digital money, switching over to that, and the possibility that banks could crumble under this. So we need to be really serious about this. I know it's much more cool to talk about guns, or it's much more exciting to talk about, nuclear war and all this other stuff. But a collapse of the economy and the financial systems is, I think, a very, very real thing. And it could be the one thing that kind of catalyst that gets this all going. We can't just keep raising the debt ceiling, and even now they're talking about doing away with it and printing and creating out of thin air trillions and trillions of dollars, and just expect that this system is just going to keep going on forever. It's an absolute impossibility at this point for us to even ever pay off the debt. And the banks, well, they're going to get their cut first, and always. And if that means taking your wealth, your money, then they're going to do it. And we need to take that very serious and get ourselves prepared and get your houses in order, folks. It's time to prepare mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.